Hello, friends and fellow VEDSies. Welcome back to day 27 of VEDS. Man, we are closing in on the home stretch. Tomorrow I'm going to have a video up about a Marvel Comics adjacent thing, and I wanted to talk a little bit about one of the resources that I've used to learn about Marvel Comics. As you all know, I love comic books. I'm more of a DC guy when it comes to actual stories and characters. However, when it comes to history, Marvel is definitely the one of the big two that has the most interesting ups and downs. And you can read all about that in Marvel Comics, The Untold Story by Sean Howe. I have listened to this on audiobook several times, and then I saw this at a used bookstore and picked it up recently because I was like, I'm probably going to go back to this eventually. I'd like to have a copy that I can mark up and actually read through. This tells the story from how Marvel was formed as Timely Comics. It ends in the 2000s, right when the MCU is getting launched, and so there are a lot of ups and downs there, a lot of shifts in creators, of course, a lot of information about Stan Lee, as well as information about lesser known, but equally, in fact, probably more important creative forces like Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. Now, I bring this book up not just to talk about a good book that if you are interested, you should read, but also because I have found myself in the past couple years moving more and more towards nonfiction than fiction. When I was growing up, unless it was something that I had to read for school, I was only reading fiction. Usually genre stuff like sci-fi and fantasy, mostly leaning towards the fantasy. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but I do find it interesting that after that period of time, I gravitated almost completely to nonfiction. In fact, I am slowly making my way through both rereading Aragon and reading, for the first time, the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin, and I'm kind of struggling with both of those, not because they're bad, but just because it's harder for me to pay attention to the story for long chunks of time. However, if those books were nonfiction, I would be there for hours going through them. I think there are a couple books that did this for me. Marvel Comics The Untold Story is one of them. The Power Broker by Robert A. Caro, this massive biography on Robert Moses, which took me over a year to get through, definitely was also one of those. And I think two things are contributing to this. One is that nonfiction is a novelty for me. Still, I have not read it for the majority of my life, so there are so many great nonfiction books. It's so easy to find ones that interest me and that are really well regarded and relatively easy to access. The second thing, though, is since I've left school, I have really wanted to keep learning things. And so going to these books, these nonfiction books, whether they are biographies or memoirs or essays, all kind of play into continuing my expansion of knowledge and acquisition of knowledge. And I'm sure the pendulum will swing back to just reading fiction eventually, but I hope it eventually kind of finds its way in the middle where I'm both able to get into fiction stories again, but also still very interested in nonfiction stories. So friends and fellow VEDSies, two questions. What are some nonfiction books you like if you're into that sort of thing? And two, what's a taste change that happened to you that you weren't expecting? And with that, I will leave it there. Friends and fellow VEDSies, I will see you tomorrow.